Peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Nyhiem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. Might be looking a little disheveled, and I'm trying to do no shave November. I don't know if my vanity is gonna let me get through the rest of the month. So bear with me. Bear with me, family. Shout out to the fam, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Hit the like button, share the video out. We're going to talk about some things tonight, man. We're going to get into some stuff. If you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you can become a part of the Notification Nation and get informed every time we go live, every time Be the Power drops a new video. What else, man? Click like, share. Shout out to everybody that's a member. We got a lot of the members on the channel in the chat. I'm loving how it looks. Let me give a shout out. BTP Riri is in the building. BTP Cynthia is on deck. BTP Shanna. Shanna is a member. Freedman Street. Brother Antonio Thomas is a member. Sister April is a member. Gerard Embiid Lamont is in the building. Detroit is in the house, man. Keenan Wright is in the building. Abdul Sharif, peace, what's going on? So,
the family's in the building.
The fam is in the building. We're few, but we're powerful. We are few, but we are powerful. So, let's talk about this ADOS cult that's attacking. Somebody just did a tweet and I just responded to this one sister. She follows our content. And, some people just kind of want the peace, right? And that's understandable. But, she said it's not the group. Basically, she's saying it's not the top. It's the people online. Well, that's not true. It's not true, right? Because they had a conference, their hashtag conference, and at the conference, they invited up, I believe it was a Choctaw or a Cherokee Freedman, and this person was brought with the sole purpose of, trying to discredit our use of the term Freedman, right? And after their conference was over, some woman that was at the conference, they tweeted that, yeah, we had a real Freedman in, at our conference. So let me see. Go ahead, Ali. I want to respond. Somebody named Nathos ADOS says it sounds like the coons are angry. So I guess we're the coon. But go ahead, let me respond to this because I'm gonna see if I can get one of these guys to come on.
Yeah, it would be good if he would come on. You know what I'm saying? Talk, come talk to us, man. If you think that we are coons because we're airing shit out, come talk to us, man. Don't hide behind the computer. We'll let you talk.
Oh yeah.
And you can show and prove. Provide the definition of a coon and then show and prove that we are actually coons that fit that definition.
That's right.
That's all you gotta do.
That's all you gotta do.
Simple shit, my nigga.
So they had the conference, and at that conference, they brought up, because that's what the cult leaders try to do. They can't attack the term Freedman. They know that they can't. Shout out, we got a new member alert. Our brother from Detroit, the Detroit Freedman, is in the building. Brother
Peace,
Gerard Ibn Lamont, brother Antonio Worley. I see you in the building. Miss Lady K, Kim Richards in the building. Roz Mickens is in the building. The Freedman, Sister Kelly Pryor.
Roz, Roz need to come on. Roz got testimony, man. She know what time it is. Sister Roz need to come on and drop the world on them people, man.
You know, so so we had to do this particular live stream. There was one guy that came on the thread and he was just going on and on and on. And no matter how much we showed him, he kept hashtagging ADOS and NAACP. I was like, what type of weird,
yeah, I saw that. What was that? What were they tagging? What was he tagging them for?
Well, he wasn't tagging them, he was hashtagging them. But
Right. Okay.
if Logic remembers when we had the discussion with that group out of Atlanta that's with them, they were saying that they were with the NAACP. You even had some chapters, we believe, at the direction of the cult leaders trying to do voter registration drives for the NAACP. Brother Logic had to school them and say, well, wait a minute, that makes absolutely no sense. If this is an advocacy group, why would you be doing voter registration drives for the NAACP and not your hashtag group, ADOS? That makes absolutely no sense. So a lot of moves we peeped out a long time ago that we thought were very, very funny style. And in that, we started to figure out these people don't know what the hell they're doing. So, we're here, Brother Logic. You want to speak to anything real quick? I want to pull up a tweet before we, go in because somebody made a request.
Nope. We can just keep going.
No doubt. All right. So let me pull up this tweet real quick. Right.
Let's start with that tweet, and then I guess we can go from there because there are a bunch of things that we need to, I guess.
Indeed, definitely. So this brother by the name of Michael B. Fox, I hope he's watching right now.
Peace, brother.
He says, I'm having a hard time with the difference between ADOS and Freedmen. I consider myself both. Is it who gets reparations or the number or whatever? Can you start the live with the short explanation of the fundamental differences? So, I mean, if one of y'all want to,
yeah, let me start just with the definitions, and then Logic can go and expound further.
Definitely.
So, what I'm gonna do, let's go back to the etymology. I'm gonna pull it up so people can see it. And for those who don't know, we use as a source etymology online, the online etymological dictionary, and we're going to look at the word freedman, right? Freedman singular, freedmen plural. Look at what it says. Let me know if you can see this. I need to make.
It's not
Can
pulling.
You see this?
Oh, there we go. There we go. It wasn't pulling up for me for whatever. I'm having some issues, internet issues as well. So I don't know, but but no, go ahead, bro.
So here's one thing, right? This is the online etymology dictionary. For those who don't know, etymology is the study of the history of words, right? Freedman, manumitted slave, circa 1600. Especially in U.S. history, circa 1600. So let's stop, right? Because they go into the Freedmen's Bureau in 1865 and all of that kind of stuff. But the main thing I wanted people to see was this right here. Manumitted slave, circa 1600, right? And this is not Wikipedia, right? Some of these people are trying to use Wikipedia, but we're going to go into that. So let's stop sharing. I want to show something else real quick, real quick. Another source. It's called Black's Laws Dictionary. Y'all might have seen us use this before, but we got to do it because that's what we do, right? So now let's see. Black's Laws Dictionary. Hold on one second. Hold on. Let me just make sure I can find it. Hold on.
I don't even. I don't even have mine close to me to even pull it up.
This is actually, yeah, I got it. I
All
got it.
right.
So this is volume 1. The first edition, excuse me, the first edition of Black's Laws Dictionary that was published in 1891. You can see it on the screen.
Yeah, I hear it.
Is
Now
it
I
on the
don't know if
screen yet?
it's up there. I don't know if that's you breaking up or if that's me hearing it bad because I'm having some type of issues. It seems like.
All right, how's it
That might
sound
be
now?
you. I hear him. I hear him pretty clear.
Yeah,
That
then
might be
that's
you.
me. Okay, yeah.
All right, so I just want to show from the actual legal dictionary published in 1891 what they say the word freedman means, right?
What year is that?
For 1891,
Okay,
right?
okay.
So it's a pretty contemporary source, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now look, freedman in Roman law, one who was set free from a state of bondage, an emancipated slave. Simply. The word is used in the same sense in the United States respecting Negroes who were formerly slaves. Period. Point. Fucking blank.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right.
Eh,
That's right.
This is the
Period.
Black's
Yo,
Laws Dictionary. This ain't no motherfucking Wikipedia.
yeah. Yo, all right. Let's go back to the original tweet. Pull that joint back up.
All right, hold on.
Let's talk about it. Like, I mean, if education
What the fuck is this?
Was that
Stupid
my
tripping.
no? Because I could hear Ali.
Yeah, that I think
That's
I think
yeah,
his went out.
logic. Your internet.
Let me sign out of Facebook because Aboriginal Moab is bugging, man. Let me still getting on my nerves. I'll
Logic.
sign
If
out
you
for a
could
second.
hear us, just jump in when you can. Your internet is frozen. You might need to jump off and come back in.
No, I'm good.
Okay, there
I
you
see
go.
I
There
see
you
him.
go.
There he is. So you want to go back to
All right.
this one?
So yeah. So if education is what you're desirous of, good. That's why we're here. I am having a hard time. I don't know why the time is hard. And I think people are making the time harder than it has to be. You should probably just disassociate yourself from those causing unwanted difficulties in your understanding process. It says, I'm having a hard time with a difference between ADOS and he said hashtag ADOS and hashtag Freeman. I don't see why it's necessary to add the hashtags, but this is Twitter. Maybe they're just doing that for
Attention so
Twitter
people can see
purposes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I consider myself both. Is it who gets reparations or the number or whatever? Can you start the live with a short explanation of the fundamental differences? Fundamentally, Freedman captures what this is claimed to represent. If you are an American, let's break the acronym down. A is supposed to be for American. Are you an American? Yes, check. Descendant of, right? This is where the problem is, this S. Descendant of slavery. My man, you're a human being. You're not a descendant of an institution. You're not a descendant of slavery, right? I don't care how people try to dress that up for you, how they try to, make that sound attractive. You're not a descendant of an institution because you're a human. You a descendant is a lineage term. I descend from the Williams family, the Joneses, the Jacksons, right? You descend from a bloodline. The slavery is not a bloodline. Slavery is a condition. Slavery is also a status, right? And so it says, I am an American descendant of slavery. No, you're not. You're an American descendant, right? Of people. I don't know what you're maybe the Foxes, right? You're a descendant of the Foxes. It says Michael B. Fox. You're an American descendant of the Foxes, the Fox family, and whoever else may be in your bloodline, right? Now, Freedman captures a history, right? All those families of the Foxes are in America during the time of slavery, and they once had the slave status in America and were held in private bondage in any kind of way, and were liberated in any kind of way, whether that was self-liberation, whether that was through purchasing your own freedom, whether that was through escape, right? But when it came state by state, right? Historically, depending on where you lived at, people got the freedman status. Freedman is a status. That's the biggest difference, right? Freedman is a status, right? That the government used to identify people who were formerly held as private bondage. That's what freedman is, right? And so if you're an American freedman, they're talking about American citizens who were formerly enslaved and held as private bondage. Now, the freedman status was first conferred on a state level. A state level. This is a federalist government. So most laws, a lot of laws in this country, right, start at the state level before they become federal law, right? And they have the backing of the federal government, right? And so you have a city like New York, the state of New York. In 1827, the state of New York abolished slavery, right? And created state freedman status, right? State freedman status. So if you lived in New York during that time, you were a New York freedman, right? On the state level by way of the General Assembly and the governor. You understand? On the state level. Now, that didn't mean when you went to, let's say, Mississippi or somewhere else, that you couldn't be forced into that diabolical institution and and have that status forced on you, right? Because they had slave status in that state. But in the state of New York, it was abolished. So a lot of people had freedman status, right? Because of state abolition. So when we talk about American freedmen since 1865, we're referring to that piece of legislation that federalized freedmen status across the United States of America, ending slavery federally, nationally, so that it was not legal or allowed in any of the states within the Union. It put it into the constitutional language, right? And so now we're talking about American freedmen. Now you can still refer to yourself as a New York freedman, but you're more than a New York freedman. You're an American freedman. So anywhere in America, you cannot legally be held as private bondage. That's the basic education. That's the basic education, right? And so you have to understand freedmen is a status of families who were once held as private bondage as slaves, right? Because slaves were the people, slaves were the individuals who were held as private bondage, right? The institution didn't hold itself in private bondage. So slavery didn't hold slavery in private bondage, right? Slavery held people in private bondage, right? And so when you got liberated, emancipated, right? And that system was totally abolished, right? You have freedman status, right? And so now you have several different lineages that were connected to slavery, right? Several different families were enslaved. You have several different families who have a history of private bondage in America in their family story. Those are freedmen, and we are their posterity. We still have that status because we're the families who were freed from slavery, right? And so when we talk about that difference, you have to understand what comes with that. A lot of things came with that. And let's understand that. Ali read the definition, the etymology, and then he went to Black's law, then went to the legal definition of it. He went from the origins of the word to the legal definition and the practice and application here in America. Now, we had an interesting comment, right? Somebody DM'd me and someone had a question. They was like, because I posted and we talked on this program about the freedman from South Carolina, Joseph Rainey, who was the first uh, freedman elected to the House of Representatives. And he represented as and served as chairman of the Committee of Freedmen Affairs. Somebody who's so uh, embedded with the cult mentality of this we got it's not even ADOSness, it's like Tone and Yvetteness, right? They're
That's
so
what it
like
is.
corrupted with
Facts.
Tone and Yvetteness, because I guarantee you right now, if Tone or Yvette said Freedman was the way, all of the people who are opposed to it would immediately take on the language, right? Because they're not invested in truth and facts. They're invested in cult idol worship. And so if you look at the case of Joseph Rainey, this is what happens when you don't study, and you don't know the history, and you don't care enough to know what you're talking about, and you just make irresponsible statements. So they tried to present themselves as knowledgeable, and they said, well, Joseph Rainey was free before emancipation. And emancipation, talking about the Emancipation Proclamation, right, said that's what the freedman status origin is. So we already proved that that's wrong, right? And let's talk about Joseph Rainey. Joseph Rainey's father, Edward L. Rainey, purchased the family's freedom, right? And then moved to Barbados and then came back to America after the Civil War. But there's a very interesting document that Edward Rainey, the father of Joseph Rainey, is a signatory contributor of. It's called what? The Freedmen of South Carolina to the Freedmen's Bureau. So Edward L. Rainey, Joseph Rainey's father, is the man who purchased the family, who's responsible for the family's freedom, right? By purchasing it, is saying, I'm a freedman, and I'm signing this document as one of the freedmen of South Carolina. You understand?
And you know why? And
so
you know
if his
why,
father's
Logic?
a freedman,
You know why? Because very simply,
go ahead.
the word freedman means a manumitted person. That's it, right? All of this extra
That's
stuff
right.
they running with is bogus, man. It's just bogus. Go ahead, man. I just want to say that,
No
Joe.
doubt. Pete, we got Sister Roz in the building. What's going on, sis?
How
Well,
y'all doing, family? How's
Roz.
everybody?
wait. Welcome to Be the Power, first and foremost.
Woo,
Oh,
Sister
thank you.
Roz.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all.
Definitely. Before I want you to go in, but I want to pull up something real quick, right? Because the brothers have been going on about, the simplicity of what we're doing. This is not anything complicated, right? You go to the etymological dictionary, you go to the Black's Law Dictionary, you could even go to any standard dictionary, and you're going to come up with the same thing. So one of the things that we hear is ADOS is a lineage. ADOS is a lineage. And our thinking of lineage, right? We just go to the dictionaries. What do the dictionaries say? Right? So let's pull up the word lineage. Right? This is Merriam-Webster online dictionary. Definition of lineage. 1, a descent in a line from a common progenitor or an ancestor, right?
Interesting.
Click on progenitor when you're done, just so that no.
Okay, no, I got you. And then it's derivation, meaning something derived. So the Guns direct lineage is in the 1960s, right? Okay, so the gun was
definition.
made, right? So the second definition is a group of individuals tracing descent from a common ancestor, especially such a group of persons whose common ancestor is regarded as its founder. So it's speaking about people when we're speaking about lineage, point blank. Period.
Yes.
You can't get around that. So when you click on the word progenitor, it says an ancestor in the direct line. And then it gives you another word, forefather. B, a biologically ancestral form. So, it's giving us this link to humans, as Brother Logic pointed out earlier. So Sister Roz, what's your take on everything so far? We're having a discussion about why the cult, the ADOS cult, keeps attacking this name Freedman. What's your take, sis?
Okay. How's everybody doing? I had been just to give everybody a little bit of background. I had been the elected chapter president of the ADOS DMV region. Now, I don't really follow anything anybody else is doing because we keep our nose to the grindstone with the work here. And one of the things that I want to say is, even before we kind of split into two different things that we were doing here for reasons that don't even matter on here. All of this work is a labor of love. Nobody's getting paid for doing anything, and we were coming out of pocket paying, for everything, whether we had monthly meetings and we were teaching people or whatever the case. In 2019, we were having like Saturday meetings, Saturday classes. We had met up for the Supreme Court, and we actually were going to pull and cull people together for that. We pulled together different chapters at that time. There were various people that came. Brother came from California. Marlon came from Chicago. We had money that came in from the former, I don't know who was in charge at that time, of Atlanta. I think Houston. Several people were just donating money for what we were doing. But we met, it was like very cold, bitterly cold, like 20 something degrees. That morning, Marshall Parson and I actually met up on Pennsylvania Avenue and walked down. That's when we as a chapter were united. We called ourselves ADOS DMV. I would call into the show, hey y'all, this is Ross from the DMV, yada, yada, yada. Now, so we had put everything together. We were not put in touch with Byron Allen at the time. And we just promoted and got people together on our own. We were going to, fly Yvette and Tone in. We had people pick them up with cars, and we actually had one of our two of our members that live on Capitol Hill that were very willing to have them just stay there in a private apartment and with an office and all of that other good stuff. And I've never spoken about this on a live. I've never just put it out there like this. But what got me upset was earlier this year, when everything kind of really blew up. I saw it coming last year. And sometimes you really don't want to tell people that, you don't want to tell the kids that there is no such thing as Santa Claus. That's your parents buying the gift, because they'll get mad at you for telling the truth. So I saw it last year. Let me give a preview on this. I saw it last year when we were having our headquarters meetings, and the whole thing came up that if you're not under the ADOS group and you're not doing the work, then you're not ADOS. I said, wait a minute. So you're telling me that people that have children, their little teenage children, their 3-year-old, 5-year-old children are not ADOS? No. Their grandparents or parents who are not out here doing the work are not ADOS. No, you have to do the work and you have to have the lineage. That doesn't make sense. So my parents don't go out here. They're seniors. They're not out here doing work day to day. They've done their thing when they were coming up. So they're not ADOS, but I would be. This is a cult. It doesn't make sense otherwise. And I'm hearing this. So people are like, yeah, rally behind this individual or these individuals. And it just never added up. It just doesn't add up at all. So they're telling us that in order for us to be in this organization, you have to do the work and have the lineage. Now, that doesn't make sense to me. And as soon as I put out, oh, you're against Yvette, how could you be against her? So they just took pictures that they had taken. Well, one individual that was with us went to the actual event and was, I guess, never got into the Supreme Court. This is out of Baltimore. Angie and her guys came down at 7:00 that morning, but she went through and got in the Supreme Court. But the individual that took pictures allegedly was there at 3 a.m. and didn't get in. So how did you get in? How'd you get there in line 4 hours before Angie from Baltimore and the Baltimore group at that time? And they got in. It doesn't add up. If it doesn't add up, it's not true, right? 1 + 1 is not 5. It just doesn't add up. So getting back to what I was saying, I start seeing and getting posts in because I don't follow them, but different people do. And they say, hey, they're claiming credit. Well, 11 months ago or earlier this year, we were told it was a post that came to me too that I don't follow them, but it was saying, oh yeah, y'all did. Yvette had said you guys did one little event So what? Big deal. One event. What does that matter? And now it comes back that it's coming. Well, you're making your foundation on something that you never facilitated, you never funded, and you never promoted, and you never linked us with Byron Allen. We did everything on our own. So I'm like, no, ma'am, you cannot take our work and just cobble it all over there or abscond with it, because that's when I come out. Because all the people that did do the work, that most of us, I mean, I would say 98% of us are not rocking with you, nor the hashtag. So how could you just take our work that you didn't put money into, you didn't facilitate, and just try to build on that? You don't get to do that. You don't get to say our event and our activity. We were going to fly you over here out of our pockets, and we were going to feed you and house you. How dare you sit there and do something so petulant, so childish as that? You have my number. If you wanted to call me, then do so. I handle things in person. I don't really like doing this online type of thing, exposure, but it just needs to be out there because I'm tired of the childishness that's taking place, and it needs to stop on their side. I mean, like I said, we're doing our thing, but don't think that everybody is going to be Christian and going to be so civil. I mean, it's people that were former chapters that are sweethearts of people. They love our people, that they would never do that. I could be a sweetheart, but I'm not going to be a sweetheart to people that are not going to be a sweetheart to me. I came into this movement. I came into every movement for our people. And my leader had been Malcolm X. As far as what I don't mess with anybody, but don't come at us crazy trying to take us down like that. That's disgusting. It's very it's not only disgusting, it's diabolical. Don't use our work to build what you're doing. Like you told us, go build. We were already building, sister. We were already doing it. So I don't need somebody that's my junior that I don't look up to telling me what to do. It's insulting. Don't insult us.
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
Facts.
And and the fact that they're bringing it up now, it speaks to what you're talking about. They're just doubling down on the nefariousness of it all, right? So they use two things, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with the 48 laws of power, but it's like letter for letter what they've done. One, they have created a cult-like following, and two, they use other people's work and take the credit. Like they have been very ugly and evil to these good people like Sister Ross and other people who actually coordinated this activist event, right? And were there. And brother, our BTP Josh, he's not with us now, but he was also there, right, on the ground supporting that thing. Because what they do, they brought Byron Allen on, and they made it seem like they cared about that, and then they didn't show up to support the man. And from the reports I got, one of the first things Byron Allen asked when he came out, he's like, "Where's Tone and Yvette?" They weren't there. They didn't support him. That was a very important relationship that could have been instrumental for us that they just sabotaged. They sabotaged it. These people don't care. They set up their agendas based on the hopes and aspirations of our people, and then they snatch the legs from up under it and watch it fall, and then they'll take the credit for all the good hard work that these good people have done. That is evil, family. That's pure evil. You understand?
Facts.
Can I add something else to this? Basically, too. Now, in doing a lot of the research, that's what I do. I'm a researcher. I'm a strategist, and so are so many of us. But in just dealing at the end of last year of 2020, we're all in the house dealing with, this pandemic going on. So that gave me even more time to do the work. And I had run across Dr. Nora Shelton, and I found out that the processes and procedures that we did with the census and writing ADOS was done 20 years before by Dr. Norris Shelton. Dr. Norris Shelton, he was based out of where? Louisville, Kentucky, Simmons College, and St. Stephen's Church. Now, you're mean to tell me that this man who wrote about 20 or 21 books now, and I started ordering the books, reading information in the books that matched up and aligned too much with what was happening over in what ADOS was doing. Now, why? And then, but nobody had heard of him before. Do you know how much I believe that? I got a piece of the Brooklyn Bridge to sell anybody that believes that they had never heard of the same location where Dr. Norris Shelton had been working out of with Pastor Cosby. It was St. Stephen's, Simmons College, Louisville, Kentucky, and you've never heard of DOAS? And it was the same process. Everybody write on the census ADOS. Well, he had everybody write on the census DOAS, and he had never gotten credit for it. Never. Like I said, it's people like that that will not. Dr. Norris Shelton is in his 80s. He's not going to come on. He's like, okay, he's not I'm a warrior, family. I'm going to let y'all know that. I can be a sweetheart, but I'm a warrior. I don't play these games. You're not going to disrespect the people that roll with me or my family. This is our family. You're not going to disrespect them like that and say, oh, well, I never heard of this before. Because that makes me get into warrior mode and step up, and I have to call you out. That's the reason that I'm on here, is to call out the foolishness. No, that was Dr. Norris Shelton is an elder. Dr. Clarence, Dr. Claude Anderson is an elder. Dr. Sandy Darity is an elder. These people are not built to do what I can do and others can do, what the BETHEPOWER brothers and sisters can do. We're sit up here, we're scholars, but we're also warriors. So you're messing with the wrong people when you disrespect us, because we're going to call out the truth. We're going to state the facts. We're not going to sit here and be laid back with it. And that's not putting them down as far as Dr. Anderson, Dr. Darity, or anybody like that, but that's just not their role. You gotta play your role in any kind of, in life, in the movie or whatever the case. You gotta play your role. You're not dealing with people that are elderly. You're not dealing with people who want to keep the peace. It needs to be called out, because it's gone on for too long. It's gone on for too long. It's time to put this puppy to rest. We sat here and did the work for our people. I'm sitting here talking to people that rock with us, that are so not enamored by a personality, that I've done things personally to help people that don't even rock with me, because I wouldn't rock with an individual that they didn't even know. I've had all kinds of things that I've done. And that all of that is water under the bridge, because I didn't rock with an individual that's 10 years my junior. Are you kidding me? If that makes sense to you, I got another piece of the Queensboro Bridge to sell you.
Yes.
The bridge.
Yo, listen real quick,
those
though.
sound effect buttons. I could have just hit the
drop.
Hey,
bombs.
listen though,
Drop
to confirm everything that the sister said, we did a program where we showed the pictures of Yvette with Dr. Shelton in Louisville, Kentucky.
It was, I don't know if that was Dr. Shelton, but it was somebody.
No, we
that had a DOAS.
It was Higginbotham. It was Gerald Higginbotham who worked
Gerald
with
Higginbotham. My bad. Yes, but we read a passage from the book, authored by Dr. Shelton, where he talked about getting the honorary degree from Kevin Cosby. We talked about all of the history. We showed how they had the campaign going. We interviewed the county commissioner, I believe, is out there, sister. They call the queen of was it reparations or something?
Yes.
Yes.
I know who you're talking about.
Interviewed her.
Yes.
We interviewed her. We interviewed Dr. Shelton. And so, like, we're about the truth and the facts, and we put it out there to the people. And so, like, all of that has been done. But what that really cements is how this is really a cult following, because even after presenting the truth and facts, nobody cared about that. Nobody cared about that. Some of the people who weren't like poisoned by cult mentality. They was like, damn, that's crazy. But most of them people didn't care anything about that. That's how you know you're cult. And sooner or later, you'll be drinking Jim Jones Kool-Aid. I'm just telling you, right? That's where this stuff leads you. Like, they don't care about truth and facts. And all they care about is the blind worship of these people. And what's really important is, like, even when Ross just was talking about, even people that she knew, and that would sacrifice that relationship for somebody they never met before in their life. Like, that is really sick and sad, family. And then we come to this Freedman reality. This is when you reject the Freedman history, the Freedman legislation, and the Freedman status and reality, you're not rejecting Logic and Ali and Josh and Nyhiem. You're rejecting your own ancestors. You're rejecting your own ancestral work. You're rejecting your own birthrights. Yeah, so you can do that and think that that's like a middle finger to us, but that's a middle finger to your great grandmother. That's a middle finger to your great grandfather and all of those freedmen who had to suffer and strive and overcome to produce you. You ungrateful bastards of the Freedman reality. You understand? They produced you, and you don't care nothing about that because you love Tone and Yvette more than your own family, more than your own grandmothers and your uncles and the people that was lynched and killed.
But look, Brother Logic, that's the cult-like mentality, right? When Donald Trump was president, there was a poll done that said, do you believe Donald Trump more than you believe Jesus? And the amount of people that said they believed Donald Trump over Jesus was amazing. And these people are Christians. So it shows you
what they say,
mechanics of the mental of the mental issues that our people have, huh?
I said that's what they say. They say they Christians.
That's what they say.
well, Logic, you just hit on something, brother, that I was saying too. It's like you're saying, like, my grandmother's, rest his soul, passed over 20 years ago, right? And they never called themselves an ADOS anything. They knew about the Freedmen. Heck, one of my grandmothers sat in on the lunch counter down in Richmond, to during the civil rights movement. So they never called themselves anything like an ADOS or a DOAS. And I mean, these women go back. My grandmom was born in 1912, another one in 1918. So please don't talk to me about that's so disrespectful. What you said, I'm double down on that. It's so disrespectful to your ancestors to call them what they were never called before and just make up a name and say that, of course, they weren't in ADOS. Why? Because it wasn't even in existence till 2-3 years ago.
Let me pull up something.
And they tried to say it was a continuation of Dr. King, and they even lied on Dr. King.
That's right. They lied on
Let's
Dr.
read
King.
it. Let's pull that up.
Is that what you have up, Ali?
That's it right there.
Okay, well, before we get to that, let me do this real quick. So this is a guy that's a part of that cult, and we call them the Follow and Swallow cult because that's what Reverend Dr. Kevin Cosby said that the followers of that particular cult should do with the leaders, that they should follow and swallow them. Those were his words. We're not exaggerating. We're not making them up. That's what he said. So we call them the Follow and Swallow cult. So this guy right here, Jamie R. Fowler, he was the one that was yelling all crazy at the politicians and, trying to get their attention. At the time, I was like, there's a more tactful way to do it. But, at the time, we was just trying to get some attention to our issues, right? So this is what this guy says. A friendly reminder. If you follow me, like or comment on a post of mine, and you follow, ascribe to, or associate it in any way with FBA, B1, NAASD, or Freedmen, you will be blocked and comments will be removed. I only, like he emphasizes the word only, follow and ascribe to #ADOS. This is your only warning. So this particular tweet highlights the behavior of a cult member, right? Now we could look at, let's break it down a little bit, right? FBA, Foundational Black Americans. I don't have a problem with that term, FBA, because there are people that you could call foundational Black Americans in this country, right? There are some that you could call to mind. I can't even think of his name offhand. But we
talked about that.
Well, we could talk about the Christmas addicts, but like I'm talking about those that were early servants, served their terms of servitude, paid their way out of their contracts, owned land in Virginia. Anthony Johnson, right? So, I'm cool with that. Foundational Black Americans, Black first.
Let me give one example. You're talking about foundational. It don't get no more foundational than this. We got Wentworth Cheswell, who was New Hampshire's first archaeologist and the first African American elected to public office in the United States. He also rode north when Paul Revere rode west to warn colonists of the redcoats coming. That is as foundational as it gets, and as native to the Republic as you can imagine.
That's right. So
that's before Crispus Attucks died.
No doubt. B1, Black first. Now, I understand what it's meant by Black first, right? My only issue is we deal with disaggregation over here. So Black could mean anything. But other than that, I understand what they mean by Black first politically, right? It's y'all are doing everything for everybody else and nothing for us. So from now on, we're going to push Black first. And NAASD is the assembly, a group largely out of California that's pushing and fighting for reparations in the state of California, right? So these are basically, I think
it's called the National Assembly of American Slave Descendants.
Definitely. I didn't want to butcher it, so I just went with the shorthand version, right? So these are either organizations, expressions by using acronyms and descriptions, right? Foundational Black American is a description of people that were here in the early Americans. Black first is an expression of political, we're pushing for our stuff first. And the assembly, is, like I said, largely a group out of California. Reparationists, right? So in an organization. But then you have this term Freedmen. Freedmen is not an organization. Freedmen is a status. Freedmen is the name that was given to the people that came out of slavery. We spoke earlier that the S in slavery means what? The S in ADOS means what? Slavery. And slavery is an institution. Institutions don't procreate with other institutions and create baby institutions that grow up to be grown institutions that then procreate to create a lineage of institutions. That's not how it works. But the institution of slavery's money did create businesses and financial institutions and help create other businesses that still exist till this day. So American descendants of slavery represents the institution itself, which includes white folks that enslaved us and their living progeny today. And the banking institutions and the insurance institutions and the media institutions, etc., that still exist until this day. So this tweet gives us a clear reference of this cult-like thinking that we have among our people, and we need to get out of that. So let's close this out, and I see everybody's pulling up stuff. We got brother Josh in the building. BTP Josh is on deck. So let's get into this Dr. King piece real quick, and then brother Josh, you give some commentary on that, and then Logic, we gonna pull your screen up. Go ahead, brother Ali.
No, this is just really to solidify the fact that these people were lying actually on Dr. King, right? Trying to use his words to say something that he actually did not say. He says who we are. We are descendants of slaves, right? Because he wanted to be specific about the fact that he's speaking about people. It's not
That's
talking
right.
about a status or an institution. He's talking
And
about the people. Yeah.
the next sentence, real quick, he
hmm
references people.
We are the offspring of noble men and women who were kidnapped from their native land and chained in ships like beasts. We are the heirs of a great and exploited continent known as Africa. That's something that they hate. See, they have a problem with that. They're very, very anti-African, right? So, but the fact of the matter is, he's really undermining everything that they're talking about. If you're going to go by what he's saying,
Yeah, these people are they have no honor. Only an honorless person can take the words of the great Dr. King and just manipulate. So this is the key part right here. They manipulated this last term. He said, we are the descendants of slaves. They said, no, you don't know nothing, Dr. King's of slavery. Right? If they really wanted to be the continuation of Dr. King, they would say we're the American descendants of slaves. But why couldn't they do that? That's too, even though they didn't care about stealing those elders' work out in Louisville, Kentucky, they had to change it to kind of make it seem like they were doing something original, but it's a continuation of King. No, it ain't. Right. And then they denied that they even knew the people. And then we showed pictures of them. And Dr. Cosby was mentioned in the book when people, if y'all remember, those of y'all who was following this movement, right? She Yvette did a program on it and said, I don't even know this man. I don't even know him. I don't know nothing. We don't know nothing about that man. And then we came out with the evidence showing that she did know him. She was at their convention. You understand? She was with Higginbotham, and Dr. Cosby was given honorary. That, like, how Dr. Cosby giving honorary PhDs to Dr. Shelton, and you don't even know the man, and that's your right hand homie. And the interesting part about that Jamion Shelton piece is he said, I only follow ADOS. But what he forgot to mention was the swallowing part. You don't just follow.
Hey, speaking of which, I have it up on the screen.
yeah,
This
she
is
sure
Kevin
did forget that
Cosby's
part.
own words. This is his own words. ADOS is not a public organization. It's privately owned. Whoa. So you admit that this is not a thing that's based on a lineage of people or people in general. It's not a public organization. We came into this thing with the understanding that it wasn't an organization at all, that instead it represented the people, the descendants of those formerly enslaved, until this Freedman thing kept slapping us upside the head. The spirit of the ancestors was like, that's not the right terminology, y'all. And it just kept coming up until, well, we resurrected that thing.
And Nyhiem,
Nyhiem, can I step in? Can I get a piece of this? Can I get a piece of this?
I want you to. Let me just read this, and y'all
get a piece of that. Get you a piece of that.
He said, just like your home is privately owned. His own home is privately owned because he's a millionaire. We don't live in privately owned homes, ADOS. Remember Tone with the data? If one of your relatives moves into your house, they have to follow and swallow your house rules. They must adjust to you, not vice versa. Huh?
Ooh.
What does that mean?
That is
don't
crazy.
Sound pastor-like to me. But go ahead.
But listen,
Josh,
even listening
Rob.
to that. So if your mom and your dad come in, you don't accommodate your mother and your father. They have to follow and swallow. Look, that's not how I treat
my moms and pops. Got to follow
in.
and swallow me.
That's weird. That's weird.
Yo, that shit sounds sick, man.
That's weird.
That shit sounds
Great.
sick.
And he lied. Sister Ross, I'm gonna pass it to you and Josh right quick. And he lied. Unless he knows something we don't know. They didn't incorporate. It wasn't no privately owned business at the time that tweet was made. They hadn't incorporated. It wasn't no privately owned business. They hadn't
incorporated.
He's lying from the pulpit. He's telling lies out that pulpit up there. And man, there wasn't no private organization. And the only incorporated ADOS entities was the brothers and sisters, boots on the ground organizers who had the organizing mind and wisdom, because they've been doing this work longer than Tone Talk's been representing traffic cases and Yvette been doing Bernie Sanders politics, right? They've been organizing longer than that. So they knew that that was something they needed to do to protect that stuff. So it wasn't no privately owned business, right? And most of them were
Come on,
nonprofit entities anyway. So I don't know what the good old pastor's lying about now, man. It's crazy.
Brother Logic, that's a smooth jacket you
Absolutely.
got
I
on.
mean, that you just hit the nail on the head
Oh.
again, Logic. Let me expound on what you just said too, brother. Yeah, there were organizations that were incorporated, and they had been for quite some time. The one in Chicago, Los Angeles, New Jersey had been incorporated as 501c4 corporations. And these people were doing work. I mean, we were the only, as far as I know, throughout the country, the only sponsored organization for a corporation. And when stuff started, coming up and hitting the fan, we had people that are accountants, CPAs, that could not pull up what Dr. Cosby was saying. Now, how can our two CPAs, that's their business is finance, could not pull up that information? It doesn't even make sense. And what he was saying, like, they're privately owned. Well, if you're a non-for-profit, you're not privately owned. If you're a non-for-profit, you are owned by a corp. You're not a privately owned business. I have a privately owned business, and but it's not a 501c4. It's a LLC. So people don't understand these terms, and they start just following along with people based on cult of personality, and it's very unfortunate because not everybody is an honorable person, and then sometimes people may start. I don't know how necessary people start off, but they need to understand that you got to deal with people's honor, and then to say I'm only going to deal with the ADOS movement, and that's where you're learning from. That's the only entity you're learning from. That's the only thing you're going to deal with. So you've closed off your own learning experience to other people being able to teach you or communicate things. That's not good. That's not good. We're talking about adults. These are not little 5-year-olds say I'm only listening to mommy and daddy. These are adults.
Ooh,
And that's
Talk
the
it, teach
scary
it.
part for me.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yes.
Go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry. I get
no, you
heated
good.
about
You
the
good.
learning
No,
things,
I
guys,
mean,
because I really want people
No,
to
I'm so glad that you're
understand what
here.
we're talking
We
about.
need
right.
you here. I'm
That's
so
right.
glad you are a breath of fresh air and wisdom. We need you here. I'm so glad I let you talk all night.
Thank
That's
Yep.
right.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. I was thinking about,
Go ahead, Josh.
narcissists. A lot of people think that
Josh, I can't
if
hear you.
you can't hear me.
I can hear him.
Okay.
Y'all
So
can't
the-
hear Josh?
I hear him.
All right.
Okay.
Ross can't hear him. But we
Oh,
can hear
that's
you,
funny.
Ross.
That's
Yeah,
Okay.
I hear Josh and Ross.
Yeah, I hear both of y'all.
Yeah, I hear everybody perfectly. So I was thinking about the cult of personality. If when you follow people's moves, you can kind of see how things add up. Especially if you ever read the 48 Laws of Power. You can kind of see people's intentional moves. And you can kind of line them up with those laws. So it's like, all right, I can see it's calculated. I can see how certain things. You did that because you're trying to use this law of power, use that law of power. Like, all right, like for example, like develop. Well, I can't remember which law number it is. Somebody in the chat can help if you're familiar with the book. Develop a cult-like following. That's one of the laws, 48 Laws of Power. Well, we've seen that this is a consistent behavior. Even another one was I'm paraphrasing was essentially make people miss you. So you take a break, you're off the scene, and now people are looking for you. So like you have an absence that you created, and it's kind of recreating demand. That's a strategy, right? But a lot of this is just dealing with narcissism. And when you think about what the different type of narcissists, a lot of people think it's like movie theater type of narcissism, but really, there's another type of narcissism. I think it's called traumatic narcissism, and it's like it's a little bit different. this is one piece. I'm just gonna read. It says, this is quoting from a professor from Cal State Chico. It says, I'd say first and foremost, probably every cult leader is a narcissist, and the extent to which his or her narcissism is negative, as one scholar called it, traumatic narcissism, that's going to have an effect on how the group is shaped. It says traumatic narcissism isn't the narcissism of a movie star who is full of himself and inspires admiration of others. It says traumatic narcissism has a deleterious effect on others. For a good example of traumatic narcissism at work, you should look at the alleged sex cult Nyhiem that sold itself as a self-help group to empower women. Nyhiem founder Keith Rainier will go on trial, and he went on trial in New York for sex trafficking and forced labor charges. It says an expose in the New York Times in 2017 detail how women in Nyhiem were branded with a symbol that includes Rainier's initials and forced to follow near starvation diets to be physically appealing to him. Former members have also alleged that they were also coerced into sex with Rainier. So, I mean, I'm just saying, it's a sad thing when you hear about and you see grown people saying that say that they are fighting for reparations and trying to move policy forward for our group. That's the bottom group, right? But then they'll come out and say, if you're not following and swallowing from the cult leaders, then I'm gonna delete you. I'm gonna block you. I'm gonna delete all your comments. That doesn't make any sense. It's like, how can you did a hell of a job developing a cult-like following, and you really did a hell of a job attracting people who be prone to cult-like thinking and behavior, But for us, that ain't finna work. That doesn't work with people that have strong minds and strong will. They know what they're talking about, and it's I don't understand why people still rocking with that moniker. How long does it have to go on before you see that these people are not really in it for that? You can't. Please, somebody show me one cult that has produced policy in the positive for any group. I don't care if it's black folks or not. Show me one cult that has done something where the result was something uplifting for the group and not tearing the group down, not molesting children, molesting women, or raping women and doing all kind of crazy stuff, getting people killed, tearing people finances up. Show me one cult. You can't. Show me one cult that's done something good. You can't.
That's right. So, all right.
And I want to say one more thing about Freedman versus that other moniker, right? One term is a connotative term. If you don't understand his words, go look it up. Connotative versus denotative. A connotative term is something that's just commonly used. People can just arbitrarily willy-nilly change the definition of it. It can vary from person to person. Everybody might have a different understanding of the words. But generally, it's a word that a group of people or people may have accept as a general meaning. A denotative term is very specific. It's not flexible and changeable like that, right? It's something that. So for our example, Freedman is a denotative term. Yes, it does have a connotative meaning, but when it comes to looking in our legislative system, you look at in how it was codified in the law, how it was denoted to mean a certain group of families, like we talked about. Freedman is a denotative term. So stop trying to take a connotative term that anybody can just come. Y'all just a few years ago came out with the connotative term, and now you want to make that supersede the denotative term. That doesn't make sense. You can't do that. So that's somebody just a simple understanding of what the difference is between the two terms. One of it is a connotative term. You can just switch it up. There's no clear definition to it. A denotator term, it's very clear who the freedmen are. That's what I just want to
And
say about
the
that.
crazy thing, Josh, is that these are people who I guarantee you can find no history of them ever having a problem with the word freedman until we started talking about it.
That's right.
I guarantee you, none of those people had anything bad to say about about Freedmen, the Freedmen's Bureau, the Freedmen's Bank until we started talking about it. So now they're willing to throw the name, the very status that their grandparents was given, in the trash because they don't like us. That's sick,
Yep,
man. Those people are
that
sick.
is sick. And if you notice a couple things, you can pull that piece up, brother, whenever you're ready. But another thing is you don't see the federal government who just passed recent successive acts of legislation to preserve the Freedmen records. You don't see them anything talking about the American descendants of slavery records. You don't see anything like that, right? You don't see just recently Ancestry.com made available access to Freedmen Bureau records, microfilm, so on and so forth, right? Slave rolls and schedules and things of that nature. They wouldn't call it American descendants of slavery. So the government understands the importance of this history and the people that embody this history, right? Let's look at an important piece of legislation. I read this once, and some idiot told a brother of mine that this was from the New York Times. I just let you know that, first of all, this is not the New York Times, right? This is straight out of congress.gov, right? But anyhow, I'm gonna read this, what it says. I just want to read this. Is very important. This is the type of good stuff you get out of research. You'll never find this research in ADOS. You'll never find this looking at let's look at this, right? The Reconstruction Congress that approved the 14th Amendment simultaneously enacted a number of race-specific programs for African Americans. The most important examples, you don't find these examples under anything else but Freedmen, involved the Freedmen's Bureau, created in 1865 as a means of providing special benefits and assistance for African Americans. Special benefits and assistance for African Americans. So when you're saying forget the freedmen, you're saying forget these special benefits and assistance for African Americans. You're not saying nothing bad about logic. You can't hurt me. You're only hurting yourself, right? It says the opponents of the Freedmen's Bureau of the Freedmen Bureau Acts attacked the Bureau on the ground that it would apply to members of only one race. This is one of the best parts about studying this Freedmen history. It gives you the answers to all the questions
Come
and
on, bro.
pushback that they're
Come
going to
on.
bring up today, right?
Facts.
And not only does it give you the answer, it gives you the congressional standing and precedence to win the argument. It says the response was that the discrimination was justified in the interest of equality. It even goes further to
Come
say,
on.
I'm
Come
gonna
on.
read it again. Let's read that again. I like that. The response was that the discrimination was justified in the interest of equality.
That's the answer right there, man.
Yep, it said, and it goes even further. It says, we need a Freedmen's Bureau, said one supporter, not because you see that where it says, this ain't the New York Times, this is Senate 10500, Congress, right? And so, and I this was just a screenshot I took off of it and sent to my brothers because that's what we do. We like really study shit, you know what I'm saying, right? And so it says, we need a Freedmen's Bureau, said one supporter, not because these people are Negroes. That's not why we need it. You know, he said, but because they are men who have been the generations despoiled their rights.
Man, come
You see that,
on.
right? It's
Got hit him
because
with
of
the
the
grim,
harm.
Ali, on that one.
It's the
crazy.
harm is why we have to be specific. It's not because it's not simply because they're Negroes. It's because the country and these state governments decided to target the Negroes, right? So it says, curiously, fundamentalists don't investigate the pertinent history. And some of you ADOS are not interested in investigating the pertinent history either, because there is no pertinent history under ADOS. It's only all the pertinent history is in this Freedman stuff.
That's
It
right.
says, but one of the explicit goals of the 14th Amendment was to provide secure constitutional grounding. Woo! Constitution. You don't have any constitutional grounding under AOS, right? You have constitutional grounding, right, for the 14th Amendment was to provide secure constitutional grounding for the Freedmen's Bureau Act, not the ADOS Bureau Act, the Freedmen's Bureau Act. It is it is peculiar at best to think that the 14th Amendment prohibited the very types of legislation it was designed to legitimate. Voting to strike down affirmative action programs, fundamentalists have often a hint of reason to think that such programs are inconsistent. What'd you say?
No, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was gonna say, if I said something wrong, correct me, because I know I say shit wrong all the time.
Yeah, it's just yeah, go ahead.
They haven't given a reason to think that such programs are inconsistent with the original understanding, right? So we got to go back to the original, right? The original is this Freedman thing, right? And so that's not the first time I read that on here, right? But if you only take your education from Tony Yvette, you'll never get that good stuff.
Never get that.
You know what I mean? It gave you all the constitutional grounding for our arguments today. And you could even make the case that they had greater opposition in that day than we do now. You understand? They had a least understanding population of people who was outright just got finished owning them and was killing abolitionists and hanging them, had fought a whole war, outright violence, right? We were able to get basically the 14th Amendment was rooted in freedman progress. That's one of the strongest and most transformative laws ever made in American history. And that was because of the freedmen. You understand? And so you will never understand who you are, what your birthrights are, and what your lineage, which means the category of freedmen families, have contributed to this great society. And so you can be into following and swallowing, right? Or you can get into actual history that encompasses your relatives' work, your family's work. People invoke and they talk about Special Field Order 15, but they don't understand that there's a whole Freedman history that is involved in that the group of people that sat down and negotiated the terms of Special Field Order 15 with General Sherman were known as the Freedmen. You understand? The group of preachers and local Savanians met. They were freedmen, and they met with General Sherman.
My bad, Logic. I want to get to this fence straddler Avery Fennell's comment, because he likes to straddle both sides of the fence. 1 minute he rocking with you, the next minute he trying to go at you. The 1 minute he bigging you up, the next minute he over there trying to big them up. So let's pull this guy's comment up and read it. Not everybody identify as freedmen. What we all have in common is the term ADOS, and that should be the mechanism that protects groups like Freedmen and B1 and so forth. Now, matter of fact,
if that's what you got out of that, then you can just log off.
Out of everything we just read, just go, brother. Just go. Sister Roz, let's go to Sister Roz. What do you think of Brother Avery's comment, this fence straddler? What do you think of his comment?
Well, I mean, for me, Avery, I have students that are Avery's age, that former students of mine that I've taught in high school. I don't want to embarrass anybody personally. And it's like he hadn't listened to the previous hour and 15 minutes of this podcast. And it's unfortunate because it was just stated why ADOS, the slavery institution itself, Avery, and anybody that's thinking like this, it could be a white slaver that owned Black people. Do you understand that?
Look, address this one too, right quick, sis. He says the Freedmen organization ain't going to be enough, family.
Brother, the Freedman, you're born a Freedman. You're born a Freedman. It's not an organization. You're born a Freedman. The Freedman has been in existence for 156 years. Okay? That's when slavery ended. There have been the Freedmen organization, or not organization. You've been freedmen for 156 years, and you're going to throw that away for something that just started as a hashtag like 3 years ago. I was there when it started. I still, come on, brother. I mean, come on. That doesn't make sense.
Let me say something. You're
You're
not going to
trying
get
to
anywhere with
make
the cult.
something
You're not gonna get
relevant that
nowhere with the cult.
isn't.
You're
You're
nowhere
trying
with the
to
cult.
make something relevant that isn't, and you're doing everything in your power to make this ADOS something, because you put time and energy and effort into it. And I totally understand and feel what you have felt, but I'm a logical, very practical individual. I'm not an emotional individual. It doesn't make sense. So throw that in the trash. I mean, you're a man, you're head of household. You have to think like a man. If your wife comes in and she's worried about the flowers, but we're in the middle of a war, you're going to say, throw those darn flowers out. We need to get bullets, and we need to get food and water, and we need to hunker down. That's what men do. You can't be emotional.
And you know what, sis? One of the things that I've noticed about a lot of the men that are in the follow and swallow quote the males is that they're
feminine, right?
They got this softness about. They're not the type of people that would go into a war. I remember when we interviewed the guy Reggie from Boston, and we was sitting there talking to him. At times it looked like he was rolling his neck. And when we got off the stream, we chopped it up among ourselves, and we was like, was it me, or did he have like this feminine type of energy? It was like, he was trying to talk and sound like he met. I was like, I don't know, maybe it was me, but we all kind of peeped the same type of thing. And I see that it's a problem.
It's a running thing with a lot of the so-called males in that affiliated with that, man. They remind me of the kind of people, they remind me of, like, especially when they start arguing with us. It's like arguing with some old church woman with her hands on her hips, trying to quote unquote tell you off or something. That's what a lot of them dudes remind me of, man. It's like, what the hell is going on here, man? The way they come at us is like, you know what I'm saying? Like the way some old woman would, or something, some crazy shit. Anyway, go ahead, man.
Yeah, let me highlight something that I've heard for a while. And I just want to get people to think, Avery's like a lot of other weirdos. They come here for attention. I don't take this guy seriously at all. He's not a serious person. He just wants attention. He's overjoyed that we mentioned him and pulled his comments up, because he's an insignificant person. He's done nothing in life that was noteworthy. So anytime someone mentions an idiot like that, and he's like, this will live in infamy, right? People will remember this clown, right? And so anyway, like Avery, anyway, right? And so like
there's like the trader in 300, right?
No, he's not even on that level. He's so insignificant. If you ever met him, you would immediately forget him upon leaving the conversation or the interaction, right? And so anytime, right? So you're not getting the link, Avery. Just stop. No one needs to see you or hear you. But there's an important question that should be dealt with, right? About the 13th Amendment. And I've said it about a year ago, but let's revisit it, right? And I really want people to think about something. I don't think anyone has thought about the 13th Amendment in this way. And a lot of people have a problem with it. And it is very problematic as it stands, right? So it says that, all right, let's go to the first one. It was from Grimsbar, right? And the first one said that, where is it at? I want to say it because I want to deal with this question. It said the 13th Amendment was to codify the power of enslavement to the government, right? Okay, sure. The 13th Amendment was designed to codify slavery in the U.S. Constitution. No naked reading of the Constitution without bringing in outside concepts could, under any circumstance, sanction slavery. All right, let's think about now the intent, right? You have to go to the legislative intent. What was going on? Who proposed the 13th Amendment, right? Whose baby was that?
Thank you for mentioning the legislative intent, because people
they don't care about legislative intent, right? That's very important, because laws are made in specific time frames in society where the need for the law is born. But let's look at the society too. So during like we know that Abraham Lincoln, there's a whole movie about the 13th Amendment, Abraham Lincoln trying to get it done. And so we talk about it saying, except for being duly convicted of a crime. So basically turning criminals into slaves, right? And so, but people don't think about that because they think about it as it applies today. After, crime bills have been passed and we've been made to be the criminal class of America. But what was the criminal class during that time? Who were the jails filled up with? And what were the trials that were getting ready to happen? This is why history is important. What kind of trials were getting ready to happen? Huh? We weren't the criminal class at the time. And if Abraham Lincoln wasn't assassinated and the Freedmen's Bureau was allowed to be successful and wasn't overthrown, right? Who was going to be the criminal class? You understand? Who was going to fill up these jails? Who were going to be the slaves? We're talking about a Confederate slavery law. Lincoln, right? I'm not trying to make him a hero, right? I'm just talking about the facts, right? The vagrancy laws is all after Lincoln was assassinated, right? And the states created these laws to benefit off the 13th Amendment. So they just reverse engineered it. They were wise enough to say we can use this to continue slavery under the state on the state side. They were smart. They know this government, right? Politically, but they said we have to get rid of the man who came with it because that wasn't his intent, right? Because I don't Lincoln and I don't know I don't know that Lincoln was going to come up with the Vagrancy Act and black codes, but I do know they were getting to have a lot of trials about treason, and there was going to be a lot of criminals who were rebels involved in the rebellion to destroy the Union, and they were going to be classified and get the status of criminals, and that was going to be a slavery under the 13th Amendment might not look like you're looking at it today had the assassinations and the overthrowing of Reconstruction happened. I just want some of y'all to think about that for a while because we see what it looks like now, but Reconstruction was overthrown, family, and there was criminals in America has a long history of just being white. That's not our rooting. That's not our origin. There was no large class of freedmen criminals. You know what I'm saying? That's not they came with legislation to force us to criminal status. So I just want y'all to think about that. Yes.
And two, let me just say this for all of the 13thers, right? That really go in on the 13th.
We got to get to this.
That thing is not even race or ethnic specific. So we got to be careful with that, thinking that the 13th Amendment was designed to enslave black people at the state level or the federal in federal prisons through incarceration. That thing is not race or ethnic specific in the language. So you can easily get caught by pushing that kind of narrative.
Yeah, and I just that's just something that's so Grimm's bar, like, don't get offended, right? That's just something to think about. It is inconsequential as we live in the reality today, but it is something to think about, right? I just wanted to have somebody think about that. It is problematic. There's a lot of things that are problematic today because of things that were overthrown and justice that was withheld. So I understand the problematic issues with it, but I just would like people to think about, because if intent is not always inconsequential, right? It's about, can you uphold it? So if you allow the intent to be ignored, you get the misuse of a law, the misuse of legislation like the 14th Amendment, and you get anchor babies and things like that. When the 14th Amendment, the original intent was to use that language in the 14th Amendment to talk about the origin of allegiance, right? And say that a natural born citizen is a American freedman, right? Because they had no other allegiance other than this government. And so when you get away from the congressional intent and the legislative intent, and say it's inconsequential, and now we don't care about legislative intent, we allow laws to be misused and abused and people to incorporate themselves in things that were never intended for them. So it is important and it is very consequential if you do not know the intent, and so you cannot uphold it and don't know what undergirds it.
And let me just say this, because saying that it's inconsequential means you don't really understand how the judiciary works, right? And that's no disrespect, but it's true. Whenever there is vagueness with regard to what it is that the law is supposed to be saying, they go to what the legislative intent to try to clarify the matter. This is the purpose of the judiciary. So you cannot say that intent is inconsequential, because when it comes down to trying to figure out what the law is supposed to do, how it's supposed to be applied, the judiciary is always going to go to the legislative intent. So you can't say that. You're only saying that because you want to make a certain point. And I get the point that you're trying to make, but it's really like easy to undermine that point. That's all I'm trying to say.
Can I step in here for a second?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to back up a little bit and address some of the naysayers. I don't know how many likes or whatever we have on here. I'm just telling you how I bring it to you. So for anybody that's saying, well, we need to have the hashtag movement to undergird us, what you're actually saying is that you're trying to disregard 153 years for 3 years. The 156 years of documentation, and just throw that in the trash for 3 years of something that someone made up and that was cobbled together like gumbo. Okay, no, that doesn't make sense. So that's your birthright, is that 156 plus odd years. And the freedman is, you're born a freedman, as I stated before. Some people don't quite get it, and that's one thing we learned as far as educators. You have to say the same thing at least 7 ways till people start getting it. You have to show it. One of the things we were talking about too, as far as a cult, if you look at or read George Orwell's book Animal Farm, I was saying at that time, Animal Farm. And I would even share the cartoon that's on YouTube, so people can just look at a cartoon and understand that the originator, Snowball, who in this case is Frederick Douglass, and our ancestors at that time had put something together. Now you got other people that are coming in that are Napoleon or whatever, but you can put in whomever you would like in this modern era as changing up the original design of what was set in place back during the Reconstruction era, and say, okay, they're taking pieces that they want and it's benefiting a select few, and the rest of the animals or the people or whatever you want to compare it to were the ones that are the workers, that they're in a cult. They're on a farm, but it's a cult. So please look at that movie if you're not somebody that is going to pick up a book and learn.
Sister Cynthia I believe it was Cynthia put me on to that cartoon. I had never heard of it prior. I believe it was Sister Cynthia, and I watched that joint, and it was perfect. It is something that I believe that should be taught at the grade school level, something that you can show children so that they themselves will not get caught up in any form of cults, whether it's political, religious, etc., etc. Look that up on YouTube, family. Animal Farm.
I want to talk about Rossman. We going back to recover some stuff, right? Kind of resetting the conversation. And so she made an excellent point talking about using 3 years to undergird 150 years and how that's ass backwards, right? Also, let's go back to Byron Allen. Byron Allen, before the Supreme Court case, he had won his case already in the lower courts. He didn't use no ADOS shit to win that.
That's right.
What undergirded his argument? He went back to that old Freedmen legislation in 1866.
That's right.
A fact, bro.
Civil Rights Act. There was no ADOS, anything that could undergird what he did to win that at the lower level, right? And then when he did try to tie into the ADOS movement, right, the leaders or the people who have been forced into the leadership nationally of it, they left the man hanging. They used him to bring energy and traffic to their personal platforms, right? And then when the people responded and came and said, let's use grassroots advocacy to support this, right? And everybody was not really there for Byron Allen. They was there because they were supporting 1866. That's because the Supreme Court brought 1866 into the argument, right? Byron Allen had already won, but now it was being attacked at the federal level because of white supremacy. And so the grassroots warriors like Sister Ross, who was here tonight sharing her wisdom, they came and they said, you know what, we got to stand against this thing, and they were there. Josh was there. They were there. A lot of you, many of you in the chat tonight were there. But who was not in sight, right? Tone and Yvette, nowhere in sight. Didn't want nothing to do with that. They didn't care nothing about that. So that's what happens when you tie yourself into the 3 years of online trolling and chair throwing, right? That never on that level. That see, because there's you got to disaggregate that too, because many of our close comrades and correspondents were the actual real ADOS organizers. Ross is a prime example, right? Ty Harper is a prime example. Ibrahim is a prime example. Marlon Watson is a prime example. Cynthia is a prime example. Arthur Ward, prime example. You understand? We work with these people. They continue to do the work despite of, right? Because they're invested in the people, into the community, and they're invested into the plight. But guess who's not? The people that ain't never nowhere and ain't never in sight, right? Unless it's something to do for them. How many thousands and thousands of dollars have the two of these idiots, Bebop and Rocksteady, generated on their platforms? How much of have they put into the movement? How
That's
much
right.
have they put into the movement, right? Tone is an attorney, and he always talks about I'm an attorney, I'm an Emmy-nominated producer, and yada, 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 right? What civil rights cases have you tried? What
That's
civil
right.
rights? You're not a civil rights attorney. You don't know nothing about no damn civil rights. There's all kind of
Come on.
attorneys. That don't mean that you are an expert on civil rights justice. Come on. All right. And so like we have to, like, people use these titles, and they always talk about Yvette. Oh, Yvette was at Capitol Hill. When what happened? When she was an aide, getting coffee and filing papers and answering phones. She wasn't instrumental in any kind of policy. And if she was good, somebody would have picked her up after her legislator was not in office anymore, but she didn't. She got cast away, and she didn't come off Capitol Hill talking about reparations for a specific group of people. She came off of Capitol Hill talking about reparations to her. Is a lot like what Bernie Sanders is talking about. A little bit of everything for everybody, right? It wasn't until she co-opted that movement for them elders in Louisville, Kentucky, with that sinister minister, right? The king of the following swallow tribe. And then she started getting lineage specific, right? Because she's an evil woman. And that's what evil people do.
Allegedly.
They lie,
Now-
and then when they run out of lies, they create more lies, right? And so that is the ingredients of a cult. And that's what it is. And that's what today's program is about. ADOS is a cult, family. And that's just what it is. And the only way to free yourself of that is to be anointed with these Freedmen knowledge. You understand? This Freedmen revelations. You have to get it.
And something else, we had this discussion, I believe it was last week sometime, about Byron Allen's case and him using that Freedman legislation. And we spoke about the but-for standard, right? And I brought up this video that I put on my Twitter wall. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. It's a video of Muhammad Ali speaking about him being in Louisville, Kentucky, of all places, and he went into the local shop luncheon to get a cheeseburger, and I guess that's when they told him we don't serve Negroes, and he was like, I don't eat them. Right? But
That was slick.
he noted that there were some Africans. They were dressed as Africans. They went in and they got served because they were not freedmen. I just put the link to that video. I didn't want to play it, for time's sake, but I put the link to that video of Muhammad Ali using those words himself. So this but-for standard, when we're dealing with race and the illusion of race and what comes about race, which is Federal Directive 15 and these 5 racial classifications, we were then able to focus on the Byron Allen case in a different way. through our Freedman lens, and we looked at that but-for standard. You know, we're not going to go into what we went into, but I just wanted to put that out there so that people can
But
start to now
can
look at
tell them.
things.
We can tell them that the only thing that has been able and that will be able to uphold the but-for standard is the freedman status, right? Because if it wasn't but for you being a freedman, you wouldn't be in the situation that you was in. And we got legislative laws and atrocities to, and not only that, we've read on air statements from governors and council persons and all of that, admitting it openly in public forums. And so one thing that you, and this, I wanted to comment to one of these comments. They said, actually, Byron Allen used them too. Well, I can't say that. Maybe he did, maybe didn't, but I can't tell if that's the case because we don't know what would have happened if Bebop and Rocksteady would have showed up at the Capitol and supported that man. All I know is that he ain't messed with him after that. So after, you know, they bailed on him, right? Who knows what had happened? But I do know they have a track record of destroying relationships. You don't see them with Marilyn. What's her name? Marilyn. Or Marianne.
Marianne
Williamson.
Marianne Williamson. You don't see them with her no more.
Killer Mike.
Killer Mike. Where Killer Mike at? All these people that they were connected with, these are the Dr. Darity. They destroyed that relationship. What we do know is that they have a track record, and there is a lot of evidence showing that they destroy relationships. They're terrible people. Terrible people can't sustain relationships. They're honorless individuals. They have no honor. They have no integrity. They have no principles. They're terrible, disgusting people. And the evidence is all over the place. This is not me name calling. I'm just looking at, you know what I'm saying? I'm just looking at the shit, and it's very obvious. They can't maintain relationships, right? And we can go deeper in that, but I don't feel the need to, right?
That's right. They attacked us out of the clear blue.
Brother Logic, let me, can I say something? Can I say something? Add to this? Okay. In my previous career, I had a marketing promotions company, and I worked with groups like TLC and Common and Usher. And one of the things I wanted to just let people know, when the label, I work with Wu-Tang Clan, when the label or the management company would say, hey, my artist is coming to Baltimore, they're coming to Richmond, or they coming to DC or whatever, and on such and such a day, and we would plan out activities and take the artists around, Goody Mob, those guys, they call us and coordinate with us what is happening and what's being done. We knew that Byron Allen was coming down, but nobody put us in touch with him, and in order for us to really make that connection. Brother Dante, who ran the whole New Jersey chapter, he was president of New Jersey chapter. Shout out to Brother Dante. We had spoken about, previous to that, different things. Byron Allen is a media mogul. Do you know what we could have done with Brother Dante and my coordination and planning if we would have sat down with Byron Allen? I mean,
but at this time, we could have set things off.
Let me jump in real quick, right? Because I want to camel back off of what you just said. Sister Roz is the one that got us the Judge Joe Brown interview. Sister Roz is the one that got us the Charles Blow interview. So what she's saying has credence, family. Could you imagine if Byron Allen, the billion-dollar media mogul, would have got the required energy needed from that cult? What would have, guys, I want you to finish going back in, but I had to jump in and interject that fact that what you're saying is true, because you got us some interviews that we don't know if we would have gotten otherwise.
Absolutely. Well, my point is too, when you have a something working in unison, and I've been trying to impart this on millennials and younger millennials, it needs to be a major chord. It needs to all work together. You can't have a one-way street. They said found love on a two-way street and lost it on a lonely highway. If y'all remember that, that's an old song, right? But basically, it can't be about one group, which were us, giving, and then we never got any kind of support. Sister Shayna down in Atlanta, she was running things down there, and she said they got an Olive Garden Christmas party. We didn't get so much as a free packet of raisins. We didn't get anything from what we were doing. We were coming all out of pocket. That's Sister Tansy, that's Marshall, that's us over here. I don't want to name too many names and blowing people up, but y'all know who you are, and you're on here and you're commenting, and that's very much appreciated. I'm not trying to expose everybody we got either, but I mean, everybody was coming out of pocket to do the work we did, and then everybody was claiming it, like, and we were like, wait a minute. So for me, I have a problem when you got money going out into a certain entity and they never give back. That doesn't make sense to me. Yes, I'm worried about the bottom line. At the end of the day, it's about the dollar too. We talking about financials and fiduciary responsibilities and economics, but we're constantly putting out, then somebody steps in. That's just like you planning for your child's birthday party, and somebody that never contributed a red cent or a scoop of ice cream comes in and takes credit for your child's party when you had a pony, you rented the space, you had a DJ, a live band, and they never did anything, but they're going to come grab credit and say that they put on your child's party. Of course, you're going to feel offended. It's not even just feeling offended, but they try to say, hey, I can plan your child's party too, and I can get y'all to come in and donate to what I'm doing because I put this whole party over here together. They're using your work as a point of reference to build themselves out. That is disingenuous, is insulting, it's crazy. But if I'm not there, for instance, who is going to speak out on it, I'm very vocal when I see incorrectness being done, and I will come out and speak on it. I never did before, but here I am. And some of you that are commenting, you already know what I think. So I mean, it's just disappointing and pretty sad that you haven't grown in the past year. But I mean, maybe you've been hearing it from the wrong source. I don't know what it is. But watch Animal Farm, because I mean, you don't want to be the duck on Animal Farm.
Because we know who the pigs are. So yeah, fam, you know, this was a powerful discussion tonight, and we wanted to go in on.
I wanted to say something before we shut it down.
No, we ain't gonna shut it down just yet. I just wanted to, you know, update people on why we had to do this particular live stream tonight. You know, we wanted to show people, like, let me do this real quick. Like, this is a bill, right? A Freedman bill that comes out of the 39th Congress, a joint resolution authorizing the President of the United States to prevent the infliction of corporal punishment in the states lately in rebellion. Whereas the practice of inflicting corporal punishment for offenses against laws and municipal regulations is barbarous in character. I have feedback. I think that's you, Ali. Let me just mute you real quick. And character and degrading in influence. And whereas in the present unsettled state of civil affairs in the states lately in rebellion, the freedmen in their helplessness are liable to be subjected to this barbarous and degrading punishment. See, this is legislation which would, in the existing condition of affairs, endanger social order and all industrial interests thereof. So when we say that the freedmen were the first protected group in the United States of America, this line, it highlights itself. The freedmen in their helplessness are liable to be subjected to this barbarous and degrading punishment. We still were.
Check it out. We speak it and it happens. Look at this cult member popped in because they can't even help it. They say, this is why you don't get many views. What in the hell does that have to do with the subject matter? See, that's your problem. See, this is a cult concern. You ain't got enough views. Like you ain't got. That's like the pastor who got the mega church with all the asses in the seats and don't do nothing with the community and getting all the offering. He talk about the little pastors who trying to do a little bit for their community. Say, look at his little bitty congregation. He don't got as many members as me. Like he don't got as many sheep to fleece as I do, right? And then he says something else. I don't know if this is a he or she, but whatever this idiot is, right? It says if ADOS is a cult, so is FBA and Freedmen. First of all, let me tell you the difference between ADOS and FBA, right? Certain groups of people started using these terminologies and created a following rather behind it. The difference from Freedmen is none of us created this. I didn't create this. We're just tying ourselves into a government status. That can't be a cult, you little weirdo. You understand? Like we are connecting ourselves to what the government has already committed, has already understood, and has identified as a specific category of families in America with a specific history, right? Now, y'all all claim that y'all love specificity until it went against what your
Come on now.
Bebop
See?
and Rocksteady was saying, right? Now you don't like steady. Now you don't
now,
like specificity.
Now they don't like it no more. That's right.
Yeah. But if you know what's going on? See, this is a perfect example of cult mindless worship. This is a mindless idiot who is suffering. They're suffering, and they don't have to remain an idiot. This is they choose to be an idiot, right? But despite of all this education and wisdom the sister Ross just poured out, all that honesty, all of that truth that the sister, all that history that just like this, nobody can refute anything this sister said tonight. Absolutely nothing. Every word was right and exact. And then you got this idiot who makes these type of statements. It's a real cancer, family. And you know what you got to do with cancer.
All right, live from the bunker. We got the angry old
OG.
dude.
What's popping?
OG Otis in the building. What's good?
It's the founder. It's the founder.
It's
Wait a minute.
The BTP founder.
It's your fault, OG.
BTP is your fault, Otis. You founded us. You
Shout
found
out.
us.
Shout out to you noisy youngsters. But that's my girl right there. I hear her trying to be all ladylike and polite. But I'm going to tell y'all this. I'm going to run through this because I've been listening. I've been tempted to stay out because I see she holding her own. But when I finally saw that WC person put their bullshit up here, Roz and I go so far back till we remember when Yvette hadn't cracked 1,000 subscribers. And when we saw that the message was supposedly aimed at reparations, we did our part, both with calling in and working these streets, like you youngsters say. So I'm going to tell you this because I put it in your chat, but I want to get this out before I forget. I hear all of y'all being very polite in your scrutiny of them, but I'm telling you, I have followed these people for over a decade. I got involved with Yvette through paying attention to what was being said about Dr. Darity. That's what drew me into scrutinizing everything. And Roz can tell you, we've had some private conversations where I've said some things that rub people the wrong way, but it was based on an understanding and an innate ability to accept truth, whether I like it or not. Too many times when I interacted with Yvette Cornell, any facts that you gave that did not allow her to come to the conclusion she wanted were malleable and were useless. Favorite thing was, oh, that don't matter. Well, I'm old enough to understand how people use English. I finally realized after a year and a half or so, that really don't matter means shut the F up. I'm going to do what I want to do. So I stopped making excuses for them. When I did, I backed away from calling in that program, and the same people who gave me the name Uncle O ain't something I chose for myself. At 68, I'm old as hell, but I didn't choose that name. And I can tell you this, I don't think there's another boomer who that movement actually gave a name. So I accept that because I was already studying Dr. Darity's work. I saw when y'all were polite about Yvette left Barbara Boxer and then she started a movement. Oh, no, it was a lot in between that. From Boyce Watkins to breaking your black world to arguing with everybody. But I said my man Nyhiem once, so I tell you, I don't make shit up. I keep receipts. Go to Lipstick Alley, man. Look at the DM I sent you. I don't have to dream this stuff up. I told you people on her show. This experience for me is a public diary. You don't find no BS and playing around on none of my stuff for over a decade. I literally use this to keep my mind sharp. If I say I think I did something on so-and-so, I can literally go to one of my any one of them and figure out what hashtag I put it in. I call folders. Or I got mad at Facebook and you see me there less because they did away with activity log. Because I'd be in the middle of talking to somebody and they try to backtrack on me and I'd be typing in search. Verifying that the memory that I'm telling you is true. So I'm going to tell you this. Yvette and Antonio are far too intelligent for me to assume that what they're doing is not intentional. That's why I tell you, chaos and misdirection is the game plan. They're the chocolate chips in the Trump world. Chaos is the game plan. I ain't got time for that BS. And I got more because I tell you, I keep receipts. Every time y'all talk, I could go to a Twitter feed and I'm going to tell you this. Something else this movement brought me. I've been interviewed by about 4 major magazines about that group over the last 3 years. And when I tell them something, I start off by saying, anything I say to you, type that phrase in. All of my social media is public and it's a public diary. So I ain't telling y'all nothing I ain't told the whole world. How I got involved in all of this, nobody could have told me 10 years ago that I would come onto this thing called social media or the internet and end up being introduced to one of the sharpest brothers I ever met in my life, Sandy Dirty. Never pressed flesh with him. But when I saw the lies and deception, I finally inboxed him and said, hey, bro, I don't know you from Adam, but some things ain't adding up. And I'll tell you what I did. From Jared Ball to Ray Winbush, when I caught them misrepresenting some exchange with him, I highlighted it and put it out and sent it to him and said, look, I don't know what they said to your face, but this is what they said on this broadcast. Well, how many broadcasts do you listen to? Hey, man, blame me. I got a boring ass life. I like to know what's going on. So y'all on the right track. I told you when I first met you, it's been a blessing. Hey, one of the few things I've been accused of that actually I take credit for. I did it. Voltron and all of that. If I could have put it together, brother, I would have. But y'all better keep tight. And look, don't waste much time trying to make excuses for them people. Accept it. They don't mean us any good. Period. From Norris Shelton on through. If you want to dig into some dirt on them, all you got to do is follow those hashtags. Because I was in a constant conversation with 4 men, myself being one of them, for over 2.5 years. Because 2 of them kept telling me what I was saying was malicious and wrong. And I said, no, I just seen it in my community growing up. I saw it in the military. I saw it when I was with Big Brother. I'm just identifying this fucking disease that stops people from getting where they want to go. When people put ego first. I'm going to finish with this one. It's at least a half a dozen people from maybe more, if then I think about it, that I said these words to over 2.5 years ago. If you want to wonder what somebody's all about and they claim to be a public leader, study the good ones. If their pronouns are I, me, and mine, listen, but you better deconstruct everything because what you think you hear might not be what they're really saying. And the other one is all great leaders talk about we, us, and our. If you hear them, Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, talk about the I, they are usually referring to a specific incident. Then they go back to what we need to do. You ain't going to find what we need to do and nothing those 2 have done from the start. And I tell you again, I'm upset because y'all didn't help me push it when I kept telling them they're immigrationists, not reparationists or freedmen. So what the hell? Stop giving them any limelight. Have a good one, my brother. Stay strong, Ross.
All right. Oh,
No doubt, OG Otis in the building, coming to us live from the bunker. You know,
Yo, Sister
but,
Ross, you want to speak to anything Miss Powell said? She said she claims you're a liar, and she's in the chat. And so if you want to speak to anything,
you on mute, Sister Ross.
No, that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about at this point in time. I mean, she wants to have a personal gripe with me. That is not to be brought into anything on here. That doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, so
Okay,
wait a minute.
so-
Maybe I'm confused. I thought she was amening what you were saying. Maybe I don't. Maybe
I don't know. I haven't been reading it. I was looking at two different screens.
All right. Yeah, I was trying to
But
follow.
I'm not a liar. I'm lying about what? Doesn't make sense.
Nah, you ain't lying.
You ain't lying at all. But
Yeah,
something.
Nah, I
Otis
thought the sister was agreeing with you. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well,
I
said positive things about how when we were all working together as a unified entity to put the Supreme Court together, and that. So I'm definitely not lying about anything. I have no need to lie.
And she
all.
never,
So-
I don't know if she just jumped in the program. Ross never took personal claim for everything that went on. She never said,
right.
I did everything and I did this and I did that. She just broke the situation down.
See,
this is another individual who I don't understand.
Oh, she said she have no beef and didn't call her a lie. I'm confused.
Okay.
I'm confused. I'm just
all right. That's cool. I accept that.
Yeah, I was in the chat like
I appreciate
stop
that.
commenting
Cool,
then.
I
You
didn't
just
read
commenting weird shit. Now you getting me upset. Get the hell, stop commenting if you don't know how to
don't
convey
do that to
clear
the sister.
thoughts. You sound like some confused, goofy shit.
Nah, I think it got confused in the chat, man.
Say what you got to say or shut up.
Yeah, but let me get to a point Otis made, right? When he said you didn't hear Martin Luther King Jr. and many of those great leaders speaking I terms, right? And when you hear the cult leaders, they always mention their names, right? And they can't even say the grassroots, boots on the groundwork, because they ran them all off. They ran all of them off to the point where many of them, they kind of got a little fatigued. I don't want to say many, but some of them that I've spoken to personally, they have a little fatigue with this thing right now. And, it's like you put all of your energy and effort into something, and then all of a sudden somebody just comes and tears it down, especially the people that, you look to as leaders or at the least leading voices in this space, who you think are supposed to be giving some marching orders. So, I wanted to point that out because I thought that was important. We don't speak in
hold up, man.
terms over here. We speak in we terms.
Hold up, man. This is upsetting to me. I don't like confusion. You understand? So I don't want to bring this into the thing, but I really want this. So you just said, like, is this person mentally healthy? I don't know this individual, but this person just consciously said, this is sad. People claiming work they didn't do in the DMV. I guess people haven't grown, and yet we are throwing shade on others. Go ahead, Ross, and claim work you didn't do.
That's what I read.
Yeah. That's what I read. Then you come down here and say, I didn't call her a liar, and show some respect for what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's you talking about show some respect.
Damn,
and don't
I
use words the person didn't say. These are your
I
words.
read that. That's why I commented.
These are your words.
Look, I know I had said that Tansy and Marsha and I were at the, and I named some of the people, but I didn't name everybody that came down. I said Angie from Baltimore and, the Philly, the guys from New York. I never claimed work for work. It doesn't, that I'm confused myself at this point. But let me get back to what I do know.
Right.
Absolutely. What we're talking about is people that are still confused for whatever reason. I mean, people that are confused about we have various leaders, and there are going to be various people that are leaders and that are knowledgeable on how to work in a political space, right? I think my first time going to Congress with people, we were talking about getting companies to divest from South Africa. That's how far back in Congress I go. All right. And I wasn't a grown woman then, but I mean, a lot of people were kids or weren't even born at that time. We were trying to get companies to divest from South Africa. And I think, I'm not sure, before that time, we were trying to get grain silos open to feed people when they were starving in Ethiopia. So it's probably before the divestment, right? So that's how long I had been working in a political space. And I'm not here for any kind of personal props at all. I'm here to try to move the marker for our people, for our freedmen people. And if somebody wants to rock with that, then that's great. If not, then I'm not understanding what anybody is here for, talking about the hashtag movement. The hashtag movement, it was many of us were leaders for our various chapters or organizations or whatever have you. I mean, things got even crazy because of the whole hashtag name and who owned it or claimed it or whatever the case may be. People came in on the work that we laid out and were putting down and trying to do and sabotaging the work because we weren't, kissing up to individuals. Now, anytime you put an individual over the group, then that is a huge problem. It's hugely backwards. You don't elevate any one individual. I mean, I could die today or tomorrow, and many people have in the past year and a half, right? So, but the movement keeps going on. Why? Because you got a lot of leaders that have the same focus for the people.
Indeed. So, man, we do what we do here on Be the Power. We set out on a journey. It's so funny, right? Because we were talking about this earlier about how the cult leader, Yvette Carnell, let's call her name, when she was doing her channel, we can look back in retrospect and say it was all BS, but she called for other people to do, people that was pushing the hashtag and pushing this message of reparations to be content creators themselves. And we were already in discussions about doing a podcast / live stream, Be the Power. And next thing you know,
hold up, bro. Before you continue content creating, you've been content creating way longer than they've been content creating.
Of course.
And Lord Abba got the most viewed video on YouTube on reparations that I've ever seen, and it's way older than anything those weirdos been talking about. You know what I'm saying? So like we've been doing this for years and years and years and years and years. We founded BTP in 2014. You know what I'm saying? We've been doing political work. I was elected to office at the time. I've been doing policy. I've been doing get out to vote. I've been doing Senate campaigns. I've been doing a presidential campaign. I've been working, been doing politics. Always been for the people, raised by Black Panthers, you know what I'm saying? Education by actual real Black Panthers, right? So we've been doing this. We didn't need, Bebop and Rocksteady to incorporate us into the cult world. We thought that was a real movement because it had some real people in it. It just wasn't them.
It was, yeah.
That's right.
And Lord Apple, go back to the blog talk. Lord Apple got blog talk videos. I mean, radio shows and shit, man. What?
All the way back.
Crazy.
I was talking about it on the last stream. Ali pulled up some stuff from 2014. I was at work and he was just reading some of the stuff off.
2014, we was talking about the 1866 Civil Rights Act.
Right.
2014.
That's
we
right.
Prove that. So long before the traffic court lawyer started talking about it, we was talking about that shit back in 2014, man.
You know, Sister Cynthia Blaine said, I knew the name Lord Abba way before I knew ADOS. And one of the things that I tried to do was take my little notoriety that I do have on social media. I don't have no big notoriety, but I do have some. I get recognized in supermarkets and stuff like that, like literally, right? So, and I tried to bring the energy of the reparations movement under the hashtag name to the conscious community. I went over there and was crushing people. Shout out to Brother Garfield. was crushing people over there based on this reparations information. And they knew they couldn't mess with me on no other topic. It's like, well, how you going to mess with me on this? This is rooted in Americanism, right? And we were already like 3/4 of the way there by being Moorish Americans. You know, we were just off by a few degrees. So, you know, we thought that we complemented what was going on. There was a sister, I don't even want to say where she's from. I don't want to blow the sister up, but she was in a circle, and we spoke, and she told me about how they've been trying to, you know, go at BTP when like everything was cool and they was still in, you know, they was shouting us out on one hand, but sending out private messages that they was trying to distance themselves from us. It was just a bunch of crazy stuff. I'm like, really? It's like, well, you know, we're just trying to advance this thing and bring in more people into this reparations fight. And I think when you have a group of people who are not serious about the work that they claim that they're doing, which is reparations, then the results of it is what we have now, a whole bunch of nothingness and follow and swallow cult babble with people saying crazy stuff like, if you claim to be Freedman or B1 or FBA, I'm blocking you. Like who?
Like who are you? Like who are you first and foremost? Like somebody's supposed to care that you're blocking somebody. I mean, get the
Yeah,
What
I
did
talked to
Dave
that dude on
Chappelle
the
say,
phone.
guys?
He's a real weirdo.
Hey,
What you
brothers,
said,
what did
Roz?
Dave Chappelle say about Twitter is not a real place. The real
Right.
place is out here
That's right.
in reality.
That's right.
And all this Twitterverse is silly. That's why I'm telling people, you know, I mean, somebody had gone in and said, oh, look at what Roz said. I mean, it's like I can't even have a conversation with some people for like a year or two. Some guy went on Twitter and said, hey, look at what she said to me. I'm too old and too like I'm not as old as Otis, OG Otis, but I'm too old and too you know wise to get involved with in arguing with children. And that's not trying to be disrespectful. It just doesn't make sense to sit here and pose some kind of crazy argument about look at what she said to me in a personal conversation, screenshot it, and then go in there for butter biscuit compliments. That's childish. Deal with me as an adult. If you can't do that, then don't deal with me at all.
That's right. Because the sister Ross may not be, she may be too wise and too graceful to disrespect, but you know, we'll curse the shit out you. We don't got no problem with getting right on your ass like back pockets.
You're right on your helmet.
We ain't gonna let you talk about the sister like that.
That's no, I mean I deal my things offline. I mean, I don't go online and being recorded with none of this. We're gonna deal with it offline. I've had people when we decided that we were not going to go the route of, okay, my parents and grandparents and, you know, family that's younger than me are not involved in the movement. So it doesn't make sense for us to attach ourselves to something that is not lineage based. No matter what they're talking about, it just wasn't. It doesn't make sense if you can be in something lineage based, but your mama and daddy that sired you cannot be. That doesn't make sense.
That's right.
And we decided to keep on in the process of doing what we had been doing and the tradition of what we had been doing, because the first thing, the act that we did, it was unofficial kind of thing, but we all got together and went down to Congress for the HR 40 So a lot of people came for that. That was pretty tight. The hallway was just jammed. The courtroom was jammed. And the second thing we did was the Supreme Court. So it goes back before the Supreme Court. But don't start just grabbing up people's history of what they did, independent of you. And like I say, if the funding isn't there, even you can't claim any of that. So we did that on our own. In order to bring about awareness. I mean, we help fund people to come down here from out of state, and they caught the bus and spent God knows how many hours on the bus and came down and went right back to where they were from. But it was a lot of us that were involved in that, and it was just beautiful. So we did that on our own. We did not have a mama and daddy telling us what to do and how to do that, right? So until people, I don't understand what people are thinking about, and maybe they're nervous or just immature in where they are. I don't know. I can't account for that kind of mentality of needing that special hand holding and tell us what to do. But what I can say is most of the former chapters that were working, doing the real work prior to the breakup, the split, they continue to do so. The ones that were like, please, mommy, daddy, hold my hand, they decided to still remain in that position. To me, I don't understand being 21 and over and not having a sense of independence about yourself and what you need in your own backyard. You're just going to go to somebody in another state and ask them what you need in your own backyard. That doesn't sound like you have right knowledge to me.
So we are at the end of this powerful discussion that we had tonight. We had to address some things because we're starting to notice that the hashtag follow and swallow cult is trying to attack the term Freedman. They had this long running thread with some guy. I can't even remember what this guy's name was. It just wasn't making a lick of sense at all. And no matter what we said, I mean, it's just, he just kept ignoring it. So it is what it is, man. We came on here, we did what we always do on Be the Power. We showed and proved. We pulled up the historical records showing you all that we didn't make up Freedmen. We didn't make up an acronym or none of that. This Freedman, it's on the records. It's there. It's in the legislation. It was buried. When you look at the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and you look at the 15th Amendment, this is a part of Freedman legislations, pieces of legislation. These were redone in the 60s. The Civil Rights Act, and I think 64, and the Voting Rights Act of 65. These were just extensions of those old Freedmen bills.
Yep. So even the Fair Housing Act was to try to supplement for what the Freedmen towns weren't able to be done and were destroyed and things like that, right? Fair housing was something that they knew the government understood that we needed and our ancestors worked for. That's why you have Freedmen towns and Freedmen villages. We read the legislation where Frederick Douglass was incorporating a whole company that got subsidized from the federal government, got legislated into action, and to set up and get subsidized and mechanized and industrialize the Freedmen properties, and it was all sabotaged. You know what I'm saying? All of that is in the Freedmen stuff. Like 150 years, 156 years undergirds 3 years. 3 years don't undergird 156 years, right?
Not at all.
And just check out. Just one time before I jump off, I just want to acknowledge my man. You may know him as Fear This One. You may know him as my man. He got many names, man.
Lafayette Ward, LD
Lafayette
Ward.
Shout out to him. This man, he designed and made this jacket, this Freedman jacket, right? You see can y'all see that? Yeah, check that out, man.
That's fire.
He got my name. You got the Freedman logo here. Freedman First, 1865. Hope y'all can see that, right?
That's
We got, you
fire.
know, a lot of these Supreme Freedmen on the back. You check me out right there, Freedmen fighters. You understand?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice. Nice.
yeah.
I want
Freedmen
one of
first,
those. I want
established
one of those.
1865. And then even got the website right there, United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen.org, man.
That's
So
what I'm
shout out to
talking
my
about.
man. I really appreciate it. That's a real warrior right there. I really appreciate my man Lafayette Ward. Appreciate you, bro.
That's what I'm talking about right there. So he about to get some orders. Everybody in the chat, like, I need one of those. Freedman first, family F1. Sister Roz, do you have any closing statements before we log off, sis?
Okay, I just want to thank everybody that stayed in or has been a part of this podcast tonight, and give a like or something before you leave. I don't know how many likes we have, but make sure you give a like or record that you were here. And thank you. I mean, I hope you go back if you weren't able to rewind and check out the whole podcast and see what was said. Thank you.
Indeed. Brother Ali, you have anything to add before we get up off air?
Yeah, I just want to say to the ADOS artillery that was talking about Freeman doesn't apply, trying to say Freeman doesn't apply. Don't try not to use like Wikipedia, you know, especially the portions of Wikipedia that doesn't even have any references to any scholarship or anything like that. Don't try to, you know, don't use Wikipedia. All right, so we showed the etymology, then we went into the Black's Law Dictionary to show you how this thing was used. Black's Law edition from as a contemporary source published in the 1800s. So don't try to play us with that weak stuff, man. You know, and if you want to talk to us, come through and let's do this thing live so we can show you don't know what you're talking about live on the air.
That's it. Come on. You know, don't call us names and stuff. Just come. We give out links. We'll go on your platform as well. We don't have no problems pulling up. Brother Logic, you got anything else to share real quick before we get off air?
I just want to thank Sister Ross for coming on. I appreciate your presence, was greatly appreciated. I hope it's a recurring presence. We got something planned. I hope we're still working that, and that we can present that to the family. That's going to be a really powerful thing. I know you don't really particularly come on platforms like that, but I really feel honored that you chose to come on.
Me too.
And you know, I really appreciate you, and I just really want to thank you for blessing us with your presence tonight. I really appreciate it. That's all I got.
Indeed.
Thanks.
Indeed. Yes, definitely. It was good to have Sister Roz come on. Ali has been saying for months, come on, Roz, jump on. For months, he's been saying that. And we finally got our sister on. And honors for coming through and sharing your story. People needed to hear that. They needed to know that, you know, we are not attacking, right? Because that's one thing we learned with not just white supremacy, but with narcissism itself, is that people will attack you. And when you hit back and then you start beating them up, then they'll start playing the victim. Why are you attacking us? Like, why? Just smacked me in the back of my head and I just turned around and beat you up. So I'm just saying it is what it is. So family, remember the book club, December 2nd. Let me pull that up real quick. We are doing a book club on John Brown. Make sure y'all get this book because we are going to have a discussion. We are going to get to the beginning. Oh, why am I sharing the YouTube screen and not the... Stop that. Hold on. What did I do?
And while you fixing that, let me go ahead and go on record and say this. Every time we do something, Providence comes in and brings the revelation. So I
That's
guarantee
right.
you, after we do this book club, you're going to see some major moves and some major acknowledgement about the abolitionist movement and the abolitionist John Brown, the 44 caliber Christian and the gunslinger of the gospel, man. And so I guarantee you, after we break this powerful history down, it's going to really open your mind to some like stuff that you never put together. This book really connects a lot of dots leading up to the Civil War and the history about, you know, the abolitionist movement is like, he's the first person we have been able to trace the term reparationist to. And
That's
so
right.
you know, I really want to give a shout out to the abolitionist John Brown, his work and commitment to the movement to establish a freedman status with, you know, Harriet Tubman, with Dangerfield, with you know, Frederick Douglass. He was a close confidant and friend of Frederick Douglass, and so I really hope as many as possible can get this book and read it, and we have a powerful discussion on it. And like I said, I want record. Once we do this, I guarantee you see some major stuff happening surrounding the John Brown history and the abolitionist history.
Indeed. So, fam, y'all already know what it is. You know, we came, we saw, we conquered, because that's what we do. And I'll leave you all with the motto of the platform, which is don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.